So, Mark, did you see the video of the Yuntai Mountain waterfall in China? The spectacular waterfall, I think, is the tallest in all of Asia. It's beautiful, lots of water gushing out. But recently, someone found that there is not one but two water pipes feeding it. So they say just the dry season, they got to make it flow.
Yeah, this is wild. I mean, it kind of goes into the whole thing with influencers and social media and how it's not real. This plays right into that. I mean, I kind of see it where they want to have everybody have the same experience, but it also feels so fake. It's kind of like, have you ever seen the videos of the people climbing up to that hand in China, and they're all like nervous, like they're gonna fall, and it looks like they're thousands of feet in the air, and then they zoom back, and there's like this huge net that would catch them, and it's only like 10 feet off the net. Is crazy.
So on one hand, this is fake, right? And we love natural waterfalls. But on the other hand, it would be kind of cool. It's a beautiful looking waterfall. And why don't we do this more often? Just put some pipes up and on a cliffside and make it a waterfall. It sounds great to me.
Yeah, you do that 25-mile hike into the Grand Canyon to go to that like magnificent waterfall, and the water's not flowing. You just flip a switch and turn it on, and it starts flowing out.
So miles and points for the average person. So we talk a lot about our travels, and I guess we're not average people, Mark. We've been doing this a long time. We cover it in writing and videos, podcasts, stuff like that. So we're probably more in the weeds than the average person. But somebody asked us in the comments, how do people accumulate all these miles and points for free travel? And I guess the headline of all of it would be welcome offers on credit cards. And then, you go a little deeper with other special offers and stuff. But I think people can get a lot of free travel from just welcome offers.
Yeah, I think that's where everybody kind of starts is, focusing your spend towards these offers. Usually you can get like 75,000, 100,000 miles points for spending $4,000 or $5,000 in 3 or 4 months. And that's kind of your normal everyday purchases, grocery store gas, utilities, all that stuff. And you can hit it just through your normal patterns. You don't have to go out and buy a whole bunch of extravagant stuff. You're just, paying your cell phone bill and getting a whole bunch of points. And then you're earning, instead of earning at 1, 2, 3, 4 times, you're earning at 10, 15, 20 times with these offers. And, you just kind of move to the next one. You get this one after a couple months, you sign up for the next offer, and you kind of work through building up your transferable currencies, and then you can use those to travel. And like you said, doing 2 or 3 of these a year can get you pretty much a full paid trip, maybe 2 trips if you do it well. That's each year. Just keep doing it.
And we both know people who have 20, 30 credit cards, and that's probably extreme. I think we probably both have a similar amount as well. But there is a myth in the world that applying for credit cards is going to lower your credit score. And we just haven't found that to be the case over time. There's a lot of factors that go into a credit score, and getting a credit inquiry might temporarily lower your score just a little bit. But there's a couple things. You don't need a perfect credit score. Having a really high credit score, paying everything on time will be good enough. And over time, getting more credit extended, that also helps you out as well. So anecdotally for us, getting a lot of credit cards hasn't been an issue. So if you sort of set up a schedule, kind of pay attention to the better offers and pursue these welcome offers, that alone can be good. And don't be afraid to apply for more than one card or to have a few cards in your portfolio.
The big keys for credit score are making on-time payments and then also your utilization rate. So that's like, hey, I have $10,000 of credit available to me. You want to keep that under 30%. So as you're adding credit cards, your utilization rate goes down naturally because you have more credit available to you, but you still want to keep that rate under it for each individual card too. That can ding you a little bit. But the most important thing with all of this is pay off your cards in full and pay them on time. Those two things are the bedrock of miles and points, because if you're not doing that, you're going to pay interest and late fees and all this stuff that's going to wipe away anything you earn in miles. So make sure you're doing that. You don't want to pay any interest on this. If you're paying interest, you're basically buying the miles at a high rate.
And there's not a huge mistake you can make as long as you follow the advice Mark just made. During the fourth quarter, I have an Amazon reselling business, and sometimes my credit limits are, maxed out on cards. I'm still paying them off at the end of the month, but they may report a higher balance when the statement prints. And I've had my credit score go down 50 points just from having a higher utilization rate. And then the next month they're paid off and it looks great again and the score goes right back up. So as long as you pay on time, don't pay the interest, you're going to do pretty well. But also do some studying, figure out how credit scores work so you're comfortable with all of it.
Yeah, agreed. And if you're worried about utilization rate, you can always pay down the balance a little bit before the statement cuts, and that will help it so it doesn't look so bad. There's lots of ways to do this, but like Shawn said, just spend the time, read a little bit, join Facebook groups, ask questions. There's always people there to help you and are willing to guide you in this journey. Hopefully, we can be a part of that too.
No matter how crazy you think you are, there are crazier people out there pushing things harder, and you can figure out where it all works for you. And as a follow up to something we've talked about on the previous shows, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, Chase Sapphire Reserve, those 75K bonuses. We talked on the last show that they were going away soon. Well, now we know exactly when they're going away, June 13th at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to grab them, that's when they go away. Sometimes they last a little longer on referrals, but that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, if you're worried about it, I would jump on it before then. The increased offer in branch on the preferred, the reserve doesn't have that, so online's your only option there. If you want to go in branch and spend the extra time, there's rumors that that might last a little bit longer. We don't know. I would say even if you're doing in branch, just go in before then, get it done. I just do it online. I hate dealing with bankers in person.
So the great debate, I think, in travel communities now is Airbnb or vacation rentals versus hotels. And I am strictly on the side of hotels. I do use Airbnb and have occasionally, but there's been a lot of complaints, especially over the last few years as it's sort of matured, like crazy cleaning fees, other gotchas from hosts, difficulty communicating. And there was this thread on X about this guy who arrived at his Airbnb in London late. The host didn't respond, changed the code on him, basically wanted to keep his whole week's worth of money and not ever give him access to the property. He had to go through so many levels of support at Airbnb. And in fact, I don't think they fixed it until his tweet went viral. And it's just a reminder that, dealing with a hotel company is maybe a little bit easier than individual hosts, but Airbnbs do have their place. Yeah, it's not always so cut and dry, but where do you fall on this? I'm still a hotel guy. I just like hotels.
Yeah, I mean, I've only done Airbnb a handful of times, and I get it. If you have a bigger family, it's so much easier. You get a couple bedrooms, you have a kitchen, you can save a lot of money that way. So I understand the draw to it. I prefer having somebody that's working there all the time. The one Airbnb I stayed at in Amsterdam, went in by the time we got like up to the room at night after going out to bars and stuff. I go out and I realize there's no sheets on the bed I'm supposed to sleep on and no pillowcases or anything. So I'm like, well, it's like 2 a.m. I can't really text the host. Where at a hotel, you could go down to the front desk or whatever and say, hey, I need this stuff. And they would come up and fix it. So you have like 24/7 service, which is so much better to me. And then you have these crazy fees and rules, and the hosts have way too much power, I think, with Airbnb. They're supposed to come out with this customer service aspect that was supposed to be more helpful, but this guy's story just shows that it's still kind of the same old in that respect. Like if a host stiffs you, they should find you a place ASAP, or pay for you to stay in a hotel, stuff like that. And the fact that the host wouldn't even let him check in, if they would have just let him check in the next day, they probably wouldn't have tweeted about it. Probably would have been fine. They would have eaten the cost for the first night, hopefully gotten refunded for that, but paid for the hotel. The way it's set up is just not in my favor.
And this host has 20 flats around London. And the person who posted this apparently got DMs from a couple people who had the same kind of situation, arrived late, and then the host just basically ghosted them, tried to keep all of their money. And the funny thing is, if you look at the host profile, according to that thread on X, it says, I'm here to solve any of your issues. But it seems like the host kind of made a business of keeping people's money, and Airbnb just defers to the host until you really escalate it high up. So they have a lot of work to do on this. And I still think that's why a lot of people, avoid it. Plus the cleaning fees and all the rules, like you said, some of these rules, you got to wash this, do this, and then they still charge you a $200 cleaning fee. And you might see something advertised at $100 a night, and then it doubles because of these fees and everything. So yeah, there's a lot of downfalls there, but I totally see why people want to do it. I just want to feel like I'm on vacation when I like the hotel experience. But again, I have miles and points. I'm not paying cash for a lot of the hotels. And I think that does make a difference for me. If I was paying cash, maybe I would be looking at Airbnb more often.
Yeah, I think this has kind of happened in the beginning of Airbnb. It was people wanting to share like an extra bedroom in their house, or wanted to share the local experience, and it was more like altruistic, I guess, or more honest. And now it's most of Airbnb, not most, but a lot of Airbnbs are institutional investors that are just buying properties to list on Airbnb. And if you run a good business, that's fine, but it takes away a bit of that personableness and that touch, and maybe the care that you would show if somebody was like staying in your house. You're like, hey, I want them to have a good experience because this is reflects on me. Where when you just own it as a business, you're like, oh well, who cares? Like I don't have to see them again. So I think that's a big part of the problems that we've seen over the last couple of years.
Just go with Verbo because the name sounds so great.
VRBO, oh, forever, no Verbo.
So the great debate between Mark and I for many years has been buying airline tickets at the airport. And I think we mentioned this on a previous show that you do this for low cost carriers and you can save $20 or more per ticket. And that can really add up. You have a family of four. So a round trip ticket, that's like $160. And you wrote a whole guide basically to this for each of the carriers, what you could save, and really how the experience goes buying them at the airport.
I think it's the one tip I share with people, the people that aren't into miles and points but like to travel. Hey, how do I save money on flights? And this is the only guaranteed way. I mean, it only works for low cost carriers, but this is the only surefire way that you're going to save money every single time. You just buy a ticket at the airport. A lot of times I try to do it when I'm already there for another flight. Sometimes I'll drive specially out there. I try to time it when they don't have a lot going on, the airline, and then you park in the short-term parking. If it's under 15 minutes, sometimes it's free. You know, maybe it's $4 for 30 minutes or something. So there's usually a decent price. It's not costing you a ton. It depends how close you live to the airport and all this stuff. But the crazy thing, you know, I've written the story before for Miles to Memories, and then I just did it again. So I was like, oh, I'll write it up at Travel on Points. But what I didn't realize is they charge this fee per segment. So I'm only, you know, usually booking nonstop flights on low cost carriers, but if you have a connection, it's $22 or whatever each connection. If you have two connections, you know, and you're doing a round trip, that really adds up. It's crazy.
You give some good advice in your article as well, because sometimes these agents, they're not used to people really going and they don't want to really get the ticket for you, or they're busy with other things to type up everything for them. So you can just hand them a piece of paper. So all the names are typed, the dates of birth, everything they need so they don't mess it up. And you said they still mess up the names about half the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, especially my wife's, because her name's Kirsten and they always do it Kristen. And I'm like, nope, you got to fix that. Which is, you know, they always say you can't fix a name on a ticket, and they fix it and reprint it in seconds. So that's all a lie too.
But yeah, check out his article. We'll put a link in the description because you do go through each of the carriers like Frontier, Allegiant, Spirit, and some of the other ones on exactly what you can save and how you can go online, do a dummy booking, and see what the fee is that you would be saving. So you can kind of calculate before you head to the airport what you would do and if it's all worth it.
Yeah, I blew one agent's mind when I had the list of like how much it should be exactly. And she's like, how'd you know what it's going to be? I was like, well, I looked online and I took away the crap fee.
So I just got back from my big trip to Hawaii and to Japan and Taiwan. And we'll be talking about it through some of the shows. But I wanted to talk about my last minute booking on ANA's flying Honu and what the experience was. ANA is a Japanese airline, well known for their service and for having an elevated product. And one of the cooler aspects is they are a member of the Star Alliance, so you can use one of their partner programs. In this case, I used Avianca Life Miles to book it. So it was 48,000 life miles for a one-way business class from Honolulu to Tokyo. And Life Miles is a partner with Citi, thank you. And so I was able to transfer Citi points over there. Absolutely great. And we got to fly it. I'll tell you what, this is a special plane. The A380 going away, they're not making them anymore. There's less and less of them. COVID kind of killed a lot of them off as well. But ANA built these planes. They have four of them specifically for the Japan to Hawaii market. They all have these special liveries and they even sell cool merch. And I fell victim to like, I bought the plane, Mark. I bought the
Usually
merch.
I'm the merch guy. That's funny.
But the experience is great. ANA is a wonderful airline. This is one of the better deals. And, you know, I talked on the show, I didn't know where we were going to go. We almost went to Europe with the nonstop business because we had a friend over there, but ultimately decided to do Hawaii and then continue with our trip to Japan. We flew Starlux Airlines coming back. So we'll talk about that on a future show as well. That was a great experience. But ANA, wonderful experience. The seat on those planes is not the best. They have this new business class suite seat that they have on their newer planes that they don't have on this. So it's not the top of the line experience, but perfectly comfortable seat, lay flat. And the best part is my daughter, as spoiled as she is, got to experience another two airlines in business class, bringing her up to 8 different airlines she's flown international business class in. I don't know if that's something to brag about or she's too spoiled. Maybe we got to sit in the back a little bit more.
Yeah, my daughter said the other day because you know we flew American to Hawaii and they had lie flat from Dallas out, and she's like, "Can we do that again? Like, I want to fly that again." I'm like, you know, now they're gonna expect it every time. But no, 48,000 miles is insane. It seems like last minute bookings with ANA is kind of the way to go. People struggle to find space, you know, so far out, maybe early on or last minute. Is that what you would say?
Yeah, especially with Japan lately, it seems like it's very popular as a destination. And both Japan Airlines, which is a member of One World, and ANA, which is Star Alliance. They both seem to be releasing a lot of last minute space. So yeah, this wasn't available up until the last minute. So I got lucky sort of there. I did have some options for flying economy. It was about an 8-hour flight, so it wouldn't have been the end of the world if we had to fly economy. They also have a really cool lounge that they built in Honolulu Airport specifically for the A380. You actually board the aircraft right from the lounge, which is really neat.
Oh, that's
And like I
cool.
said, they have a whole merch line of like plush animals. I bought the plane and got my daughter the plush, which is a very Japanese thing. They love all their merch and stuff like that. So buying into that, yeah, the whole experience was great. And like I said, it's a special plane, themed to Hawaii, the Honu. Everything worked perfectly. And ANA highly recommended. And we'll talk about Japan and everything else on a future show.
But how was their soy sauce, Shawn?
I didn't put it on the rice, Mark. I knew better. That's something I would love for people to comment on, because these Japanese airlines have usually a Japanese menu and then a Western menu. And I always go with the Western menu, which is never all that great. It's usually a steak, very mediocre on both JAL and ANA. But one time I did order the Japanese menu. It was just a little too fishy for me. I'd love to see what people think. I like fish, but it was just fish overload. So I always go safe. And that's the one sort of downside. You never get a great Western meal on either one of these airlines, but great service. And the plane wasn't too hot. Usually they keep the planes pretty hot,
Oh,
so
nice.
I was happy with that one.
Yeah, I know when I'm going over there, I'm going to bring like a little USB charge fan because it gets unbearable at times depending on the carrier. So I'm going to have that just blowing on my face the whole time. So there's a little tip. Bring a small little fold out USB fan with you.
I absolutely did that. I bought one for $6 on Amazon. I had a battery powered one before and the battery would die. It was a pain in the butt. So I got the USB powered one. On Cathay Pacific, I used it. We flew them from Japan to Taiwan, and about 20 minutes left in the flight, the flight attendant had seen me using this for the entire flight, told me I couldn't use it anymore. So I don't know if that's a rule she made up or what happened, but they make a world of difference, those little fans, and plugging in the USB works great. Great tip there. Our next story comes from our friend from Travel Blogger Buzz, 17 places you can't visit. Shout out to George. And it's pretty cool. There's lots of interesting things in there like Chernobyl and some of the things you might know more. One of the interesting honorable mentions, I've actually been there, was Maya Bay in Thailand. That's where they filmed The Beach. That was closed for 4 years because of over tourism. They were polluting the water, but they reopened that. Some interesting caves with like frescoes that were painted that were getting destroyed. What stood out to you?
I like there was like a little island outside off of Iceland that, erupted from a volcano, I think in the 60s, and they just haven't let people on it. Like only people that go on it are scientists, and they try to, not leave a trace type of thing. And they just want to see like how it naturally develops. And they've been checking this out for 80 years now. And they've seen like now there's randomly a tomato plant growing on it and stuff. It's kind of crazy.
And George over at Travel Blogger Buzz, he comes up with these great articles. He finds a lot of great articles, and yeah, just kind of knowing about these places, even though we can't go to them, it's interesting. And you hear the history. Some places like Aluro Rock, I almost went there, and I probably pronounced that incorrectly, back in 2007, but that's been closed since 2018. That's in the Australian outback, really famous place, and I didn't even know it closed, so that's kind of sad to see. The last one that I thought really stood out, Mark, was the Coca-Cola Vault. Apparently, this is in the Coca-Cola Museum in Atlanta, and they have the secret recipe written in the vault, and like tourists can see through the glass, but they can't go inside. This has to be like purely marketing, right? That's not a real vault with a real formula there, is it?
I don't know, but I wish there was like a Pepsi one so we could find out what happened to Crystal Clear Pepsi.
Bring it back.
Yes.
So let's close with this. Hilton Timeshare presentations. We covered on Miles to Memories, this new offer that came out. This is really great. Hilton will send out these offers to people every once in a while. You agree to go to a timeshare presentation, and they'll give you a discounted stay in one of their Hilton Grand Vacations and often points. And right now they have one for Orlando or Vegas. You get 4 days, 3 nights for $149 plus tax, plus 75,000 Hilton Honors points, and you agree to a 2-hour timeshare presentation. Now, I haven't done one of these. You have, so you'll say that in a minute. But I always get nightmares just thinking about how bad these are going to be. The horror stories about some timeshare places where they lock you in a room, things like that. But it hasn't been so bad for you, has it?
No, we've done this 3 or 4 times now, a couple times with Hilton, and it's good, especially like Vegas with how crazy prices are on weekends and stuff. 3 nights, a 3-night weekend for $150 is pretty nuts on its own. Then you get 75,000 points, which are worth, another several $100s for future stays. So that's really cool. I did one last year when it ballooned up to 150,000 points. Never seen anything like that before. So jumped on it. went to New York, and did that and sat down with the person. And they didn't do that. Usually they do like a rah-rah thing before where everybody sits in a group together and the big sales guy comes in and gets everybody saying yes over and over again for 20, 30 minutes. This one, they just went right back to the room with the individual agent. We sat down and she's like, oh, so how'd you find out about us? And I said, well, I wrote about the deal, so I wanted to try it out. And then she asked a couple more questions. I'm like, yeah, I read about travel, know about Hilton honors points, all that stuff. And she's like, oh, are you going to write about this? And I said, yeah, I'll probably write about the experience. So she left, went and talked to her boss, and then came back and she's like, okay, you're free to leave. It was 10 minutes.
That's Mark's ultimate hack, is just to tell him he writes about it, and then every time they let him out of the 2-hour thing. So take note of that.
Yeah.
Say you're a travel blogger and do it. But it's great. And also in the past, it's been possible to call them and potentially get a better offer. So you could call them and see if they can offer something sweeter, more points, cheaper stay, something like that. So don't always take the offer that they send you in the mail. And we'll have a link to all of this. But definitely calling has been good for people in the past.
Yeah, sometimes you can get like an extra bedroom or, an upgrade, something like that. And then the cool thing with Hilton is a lot of times they put you up at just like one of their Hilton hotels, maybe the actual timeshare property, which if you can stay at the timeshare property, you probably want to stay there. They're usually a bit nicer. But if you get put in a regular hotel, they're paying for it and you end up getting like points for the stay and stuff as if you had paid for it. So it's kind of cool because it's like two separate companies. So that's a nice little extra bonus points that you might get from it.
Yeah, these are definitely lucrative. Marriott sometimes sends these out. Hyatt sometimes sends these out. So keep a lookout for your email. Sometimes they send them in the regular mail. Calling can always be a good idea to get something better. And we'll cover any cool ones that come in the future. I've still yet to do one. I keep saying I'm going to do it, and I really do need to. Maybe Orlando. Maybe I'll do Orlando just because
There you
I'm
go.
always there. So we'll follow up on that. But let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about today. How do you earn your miles and points as a regular person? Is it welcome offers? Do you do other things? The places that you can't visit? Everything else we talked about, timeshare presentations. What is your craziest timeshare presentation story? Leave it down in the comments. We do a show every Wednesday, and we're going to have some bonus shows coming up as well. A new channel here, so we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a comment, help get the message out to everybody out there, share it with a friend. And thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.